Welcome to the Career Success Secret Show. I'm your host, Mike Tomasello. Today, we're diving into a topic that's very simple, yet most people, including myself sometimes, fail miserably at. However, it can significantly impact your career trajectory and it can significantly impact your job search success. I am talking about the concept of consistency. Now, before we jump into consistency and how difficult it is and the importance of it and some things to keep in mind, I want to do a quick shout out to our top 3 countries. As you can probably imagine, the United States is one of the top 3 countries, and our top 3 countries have changed, and including in our top 3 are Ireland and Nigeria. Awesome. Love the diversity. Welcome to Nigerian and our Irish listeners. In terms of our top 3 U.S. states, as you can probably guess, California is one of those top 3 states. New Jersey, continuing its momentum, staying in our top 3 states, much to my surprise. And welcome to the top 3, Texas. Love my Texans. And last but not least, I thought I would do something different this week and shout out 3 cities that we have new listeners from. And so I'm going to shout out Denver. Welcome, Denver. The DFW area, both listeners from the Fort Worth as well as the Dallas area, and then also the greater Richmond RVA area. So welcome to all the listeners there. And to get back into it, talking about consistency, the reason why I chose to talk about consistency this week was I fell off the wagon with the podcast. So you might have noticed that there's been no new episode for a couple of weeks. And I thought I had a really good reason for it. My reason was my mouth was starting to hurt and I could still talk, but I'm like, I'm not going to be at my best, and therefore, I'm not going to record an episode. I'll wait till tomorrow, and hopefully I'll feel better. Well, here's the thing. I didn't feel better, and I didn't feel better for over a week, and if I had just recorded the episode when I was not feeling as well, it would have resulted in more content, more consistent content for you, and overall, probably would have been a better situation than just waiting. Now, luckily, I like to turn my setbacks into learnings, both for you and also for myself. And so if I could go back in time, I would say, man, I'm going to push through it. I'm going to just keep going and I'm going to record an episode. Also, I would add, whenever your habits have not become automatic, which we'll talk more about during the course of the episode, whenever your habits are not automatic, if you do not maintain that consistency, then it's that much more difficult to get back on track when you fall off. It's that much more difficult to get back because you have a habit of not taking that action from your past. You have a habit of not necessarily not doing anything, but not doing that positive habit or that positive action that you want to be doing. And this is why the career or the job search consistency is so important, because most of you are not used to thinking on a regular basis or taking action on a regular basis in terms of how can I make more money in my career? How can I make more money at my job? How can I convince them that I am so valuable that I've generated more money for them, that I deserve to be paid more? And I have a solid argument for that. Because you don't have that habit, because you don't have that consistency of asking yourself that question over and over again, you haven't gotten good at that problem-solving ability for that particular thing. Now, that was just one example. If you are totally clueless, maybe you're unhappy in your job, you want to do a career switch, or maybe you're early in your career and you don't know what you want to do next, you have a habit, you have a lack of consistency in not thinking about what you want to do next. And so you're not necessarily going to have this aha, hallelujah moment because your problem-solving part of your brain hasn't received the consistency message from you that this is something that you want to continually work on figuring out. Same thing with job search. You don't have the consistency of staying in touch with your network, and it becomes awkward or you think it becomes awkward. It might not be awkward to them. It becomes awkward to you, or you're not as good at it. You're not as good at keeping in touch with people in a meaningful, genuine way where you're not slimy and asking for big favors all the time. You have a habit or lack of consistency in not doing it. And so therefore you're not good at it yet. So if you're applying for a bunch of jobs and you're using the email direct to the hiring manager approach, if you are not writing emails, pitching yourself as a great fit for a role on at least a weekly basis, you're not going to be as good at it. So it just goes to show no matter what the action is, this is part of the reason why writing or editing your resume is so friggin' frustrating, is because some of you are only doing it once every 2 years, once every 5 years, God forbid, once every 10 years. And so that lack of consistency in looking at it is not only making it uncomfortable for you, but it's making it more difficult to do. So if you've ever felt stuck, frustrated, or your efforts aren't paying off, this episode is clearly for you. We need to remember that career success isn't an overnight sensation. Just because an actor or a comedian, Matt Rife as a comedian is an example. If you don't know Matt Rife, he started putting some of his stand-up comedy on TikTok and on video. I think he recorded a YouTube special or something, and he started popping off, and some people labeled him an overnight sensation. And that's just absolutely not true. He had been performing stand-up for years. Even though he's a young guy, he had been performing stand-up for since his early teens, I think. And so he had been getting the repetitions in, and just not enough people had seen him yet. And eventually the momentum just built. But if you don't have that repetition, if you don't have that consistency, you're never going to be. Anyway, the point I was going with that is careers are not overnight sensations. They're the results of sustained effort. They're the results of positive routines that propel you forward, even when the going gets tough. So whether you're actively job searching, aiming for a promotion, thinking about a career change, or trying to learn a new skill, consistency is the foundation of achievement. It really is. Consistency is the foundation of achievement. So we talked about this a little bit, but I'm going to dive deeper and say, why is consistency so crucial? Let's consider the job search. I mentioned in a previous episode that if you don't know the destination, it's really hard to get the roadmap to go there. Similarly, without consistent action, even with a clear destination, you'll likely drift aimlessly, or you won't just get very far because you don't have those actions to back it up. Setting weekly action goals, as discussed in another episode, provides a framework for this. And if you're already doing this, you might need to go back and evaluate your weekly action goals and say, are these the habits around my greater career goals? Are these the action habits that are going to move me towards my goal and my consistency? My guess is at least one or two of the things that people tell you should be doing that you're not doing on a regular basis. I probably don't need to spell that out for you. But just a couple things. This could involve a specific number of applications that you're going to do during a given week, a specific amount of hours spent networking, or a specific number of messages or DMs or texts or phone calls you're going to make. Yes, I do recommend you make phone calls, or a specific amount of time dedicated every week to improving your resume if you haven't quite nailed that yet, or improving your interview skills. It's about making regular, intentional efforts rather than sporadic bursts of activity. So think of habits as the automatic behaviors that support your goals. Instead of having to consciously decide each day to work on your job search, for example, you can create a habit of spending a dedicated hour on it every morning. Bonus points if it's programmed into your calendar. These could be action goals, habit goals, or time-based goals. For instance, a habit goal might be to reach out to 2 connections from your past via LinkedIn, text, or phone call or email. While a time-based goal could be, I am going to spend at least 30 minutes practicing common interview questions every week. Or if you have interviews coming up or you know you're weaker in that area, maybe it's every day, or maybe it's 5 days a week. As I pointed out in a previous episode, the amount of stress you feel can be directly related to the lack of systems that you have in place. Shout out to Davey Tyberski, who taught me that. Building habits creates those systems and reduces the mental burden of constantly trying to motivate yourself. But what happens when you face setbacks? What happens when you send out numerous applications and don't hear back, or you have interviews that don't lead to offers? Just keep going becomes paramount. The job search and career progression in general can be challenging. I even describe the current job market as one where some of the challenges you're experiencing now might persist even when the economy improves if you don't adapt. It's easy to get caught up in negative news and the venting of other job seekers. However, dwelling on negativity often makes things worse. This is where mindset plays a critical role. We can call it Nike's just do it. We can say just keep going. As I emphasized in the episode about a gold medal job search mindset, adopting a gold medal attitude, athletes are, even though they're the best in the world at what they do, they're focusing on constant and never-ending improvements, including not giving up after they get the silver medal, or after they get the bronze medal, or after they get the 4th place and they don't get anything. So job search and career is very similar. There's a limited amount of promotions. There's a limited amount of raises to be had at your particular company. There's a limited amount of people that they can handle to schedule interviews with. So there's a limited amount of job offers that you can receive, usually 1 job offer per role. It's very rare that a company is hiring a whole bunch of the same position at once. And this is where the power of small, consistent improvements truly shines. I want to shout out James Clear, who's the author of Atomic Habits. He really puts this into mathematical perspective, the power of consistency. He notes that improving just 1% every day for a year makes you 37 times better by the end. That's not 365% better. That's 3,700% better. That's the power of consistency. Now, I'm not unrealistic, like 7 days a week, 365 days a year. For a lot of your habits, that's not going to be realistic or even necessary. But that's where you really should be saying, is this something I should be doing 7 days a week? Is this something I should be doing 5 days a week, or at least 4 days a week, or at least weekly? For those of you on the job search, if your stuff is not at least weekly and you're falling off, you're not getting that consistency. I want you to consider one of the greatest authors, one of the greatest writers of all time, Stephen King. I was cyber stalking him recently, and I was absolutely amazed how many things he's written that have been turned into these big friggin' deals. His novels have become movies and TV shows and whatever. Stephen King writes 2,000 words every single day. 2,000 words every single day, including holidays, birthdays, and yes, even days when he doesn't feel like it. In the book called On Writing, he notes that it's his consistency, not these brilliant moments of inspiration, that have produced his body of work. So think about applying this consistent effort to various aspects of your job search or career goals each week, whether it's refining your resume, practicing your interview answers, or reaching out to a connection from your past on a regular basis, or reaching out to a university alumni on a regular basis. These small steps done consistently will compound into significant progress over time. I also want to highlight the importance of striving to be at least 1% better in numerous areas. And even I, Mike Tomasello, despite my past success, have faced challenges earlier in my career, including around consistency. So if you're feeling weary on your career journey, I get it, but remember the power of consistency in your actions, building habits, even when you don't feel like it. Keep going. Even when you don't feel like it, keep going. So before we wrap up, I do have a quick request. Please follow the podcast regardless of what platform you're on, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Please give us a follow or a subscribe, give a 5-star rating, and leave a comment or a review. Each of these actions helps us reach more people and continue bringing you valuable insights. Thank you for tuning in to the Career Success Secret Show. I'm your host, Mike Tomasello. Go out there and make your career happen.